Some lives are merely lived. Others are entire epochs. He was a poet, a novelist, a playwright, and a political powerhouse. He battled kings, championed the poor, and wrote the definitive stories of human suffering and redemption. He is Victor Hugo, the conscience of France. Born in 1802, during the tumultuous Napoleonic era, Victor Hugo was a literary prodigy. He began writing poetry and plays from a young age, quickly establishing himself as a leading voice of the emerging Romantic movement, a revolution against the cold logic of the past. Initially, he was a royalist, supporting the monarchy and earning the favor of King Charles X. He was a man of the establishment, rewarded with titles and pensions, but his true genius lay in his capacity for change and intellectual evolution that would eventually put him on a collision course with the very power structures that supported him. Hugo's early work was a fiery declaration of war against literary tradition. His play Hernani caused riots in the Paris theater in 1830, a famous moment known as the Battle of Hernani, where the Romantics clashed physically with the traditionalists. This was more than just a play. It was a cultural brawl for the soul of French art. His first massive literary success came in 1831 with The Hunchback of Notre-Dame, or as it's known in French, Notre-Dame de Paris. The novel was a profound defense of Gothic architecture and a passionate humanizing of the downtrodden. Cementing his artistic philosophy, beauty could be found in the grotesque, and true humanity resided in the outcast. The novel made him a national icon, yet as his fame grew, his political compass shifted. He became increasingly preoccupied with the social injustices he saw in Parisian slums and the brutal inequality of the industrial age. The poet was transforming into the political activist. By the 1840s, Hugo transitioned into direct political engagement, using his immense public stature to champion justice. He spoke passionately in the French Parliament against poverty, capital punishment, and for women's rights. The final breaking point came in 1851 when Louis Napoleon staged a coup d'état, dissolving the Republic. Hugo, the lifelong Republican, refused to be silenced. He publicly denounced Napoleon III as a traitor and a tyrant. This act of moral courage led to the ultimate sacrifice, exile. For nearly 2 decades, Hugo lived in exile on the Channel Islands. He famously refused all pardons, vowing he would not return until liberty was restored. Exile, however, did not silence him. It intensified his voice. It was during this period that he wrote his definitive masterpiece, Les Misérables. Les Misérables was not just a novel. It was a cultural event, a sweeping philosophical and historical document. It took over a decade to write and became a worldwide phenomenon overnight. The book was a passionate argument for redemption, mercy, and justice, contrasting the purity of the human spirit with the crushing weight of societal law. Through the struggles of Jean Valjean and the tragic figure of Fantine, Hugo gave voice to the marginalized masses of France. The novel's impact was immediate and profound, influencing not just literature but political thought globally. Hugo demonstrated that a writer's duty was not just to entertain, but to bear witness and drive change. In 1870, after the collapse of Napoleon III's regime, Hugo returned to Paris as a national hero and undisputed living legend, who had kept the flame of the Republic alive through the power of his pen. Victor Hugo's life was a grand testament to the fusion of art and advocacy. He proved that the most powerful weapon against tyranny and injustice is not the sword, but the carefully chosen word. He gave us the Romantic Revolution, the conscience of the novel, and the enduring archetypes of the suffering hero. He taught the world that there are no miserable people, only miserable conditions. When Victor Hugo died in 1885, France granted him a national funeral and immense procession involving millions of final, fitting tribute to the man who was truly the poet, prophet, and conscience of his nation. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of a literary giant. If you were moved by Hugo's story, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories about the figures who shaped our world. We'll see you in the next one.